Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. Mark, this time last week we enjoyed a really fun, entertaining home run derby and then the All-Star game, and now we're back to baseball in the second half of the baseball season. The Braves dropped 2 of their first 3 games coming back in the second half of the year against the Tampa Bay Rays, falling out of 45-47. It's kind of one of those deja vu, all happening again kind of situations here where the Braves kind of, you see some bright spots, you also see some down spots, 3rd place in the division right now. What do you make of them after watching them in the first 3 games after the break?
Well, the biggest question they had is, can they place the production that you get from Ronald Acuna? So they go out and they get Joc Pederson, who is a validator. This guy can do some things. They put him in the leadoff spot, kind of replacing Acuna. You could see the effect it had on the lineup. He had a very good weekend. If you went to see the graphics, he went 4 for 10, home run, 4 RBIs. I thought a big difference in the lineup was when they moved Swanson to second. If you move him to second, he's now, I don't think he's one of the better hitters in the lineup, but his skills fit perfectly in that number 2 spot. That kind of extends the lineup a little bit. You allow Freeman to go back to his natural spot, even though I did like him in the number 2 spot, to number 3. You got Albies at number 4, Austin Riley, and then you kind of go down there. RC is a guy, though, I think they're going to give a shot to play a little bit. He had a very bad weekend, only 1 hit, 15 at-bats, or 2 hits, 15 at-bats. And he's a big boy. You see him out there. He's got some size on him, and I think they're going to give him a shot to get one of these outfield positions. But I still think they need another bona fide outfielder to replace Ozuna's production if they want to seriously contend for the National League East title, which when you look at the way the Mets played this weekend and the fact that their bullpen now, and you see again tonight, they're getting lit up their starting staff because they have lack of depth in their starting staff. Their bullpen's starting to be exposed now to where they're pitching a lot. A lot of what happened to Atlanta earlier, so they might start to lose some games like Atlanta lost earlier because their bullpen is just pitching a great number of innings.
Exactly. There's Joc Pederson right there, kind of leading into his weekend against the Rays. And one of the big things that you take away from his number 1, the trade, just getting him number 1 shows that the Braves are still buyers, not sellers.
And they should
at the same time, puts on a new uniform, goes to a new clubhouse, and does pretty well.
Yep, I think he's a professional. He's a guy that knows how to hit. I think he should fit perfectly with a bunch of veterans in that Atlanta lineup. He's a guy that has postseason experience. He's played with the Dodgers and the Cubs, so you know he knows his way around the baseball diamond. Exactly. What I didn't like about Atlanta, though, is you saw the same thing all year. The same problems have been cropping up. Their bullpen has been horribly inconsistent. You look at the numbers this weekend. 0-2, 2 blown saves on Friday night and on Sunday. They can't really hold leads late. They'll pitch well one day. On Saturday when Fried went 7 innings, perfect 8 and 9 innings. Right. And then on Friday and Sunday, they're not able to hold leads like they should. The other thing that they haven't been able to do, Atlanta, is you don't know how they're going to hit with runners in scoring position. Right. One day they'll be very good at it. If you see Saturday, they were able to 4 for 8. They didn't leave many men on base, only 5 on base. Friday and Sunday, a combined 5 for 21, leaving 17 men on base. Yeah. That's something that Atlanta's gotten used to, the inconsistency of hitting with runners on base. They've scored runs, but a lot of their runs are in like those 9-0 games. Yes. Like they beat the Mets 13-2. So a lot of blowout wins. But in the close games, their bullpen isn't getting it done, and you can see that they're leaving a lot of men on base in those close games that they lose. And finally, another thing is they're really struggling against the American League East this year. Right. They got 5 games left against the American League East, 2 against the Yankees, 3 at Baltimore. But you can see, especially the Blue Jays, they just did a number on Atlanta this year. They are overall, they're 3-12 against the American League East this year. They're getting outscored by 18 runs a game. So while they don't have to worry about this, the American League East come postseason time, if they make it, you should be able to, the Yankees are good, but they're not as good as they were, in years past. The Blue Jays are a young team, but the Braves should still beat them. They shouldn't be getting blown out by 23 runs against them. Funny thing was against the Rays and Yankees, the Braves have scored more runs. They just haven't won those games. And against the Red Sox, they lost a pair of 10-8 games at home because they weren't able to hold down a Red Sox lineup. They gave up leads late in that game as well after coming back from huge deficits. So their bullpen, you can see, like this kind of shows you exactly what's been going wrong for them all year, is that they haven't been consistent with their bullpen contributing and leaving men on base. The same thing that plagued them this weekend against the Braves. However, you have the Mets blowing a 5-0 lead the game before the All-Star break against the Pirates, and then you have them blowing a 6-0 lead in the 8th inning with Seth Lugo on the mound.
Right.
In that game where Diaz, who I can't figure out why Diaz can't get people out. He's a guy who throws his fastball is about 100 miles an hour and it moves like a whiff ball, but he's giving up runs on a slider.
Right.
And that was a home run pitch that he allowed on Saturday. And you can see he points, he points up yeah, there's the ball. Meanwhile, it's almost 400 feet into the left field stands. So they're getting susceptible now. The Mets' key has been their pitching, but their starters that they thought they would have, Carlos Carrasco is nowhere to be found. Syndergaard is not going to be back this season. I don't care what anybody says. He's coming off surgery, and they pushed him back, and I don't think they're going to risk bringing him back. DeGrom, you don't know. He blows his nose, and he's out for 6 games. It seems like he has to have a perfect body in order to pitch, which I don't understand why. He's got forearm tightness now, so we missed another start. Marcus Stroman hasn't been as successful his last 3 or 4 starts as he was early in the year. Taijuan Walker, their other all-star starter, got slammed around on Sunday, where he only went less than an inning, which, again, their bullpen had to come out and pitched a lot of innings yesterday, and they're doing it again tonight with Gerhard getting slapped around, too. So the Mets are starting to be exposed for what they are. Look, having followed these teams for a long time, the Mets have something to prove. Atlanta doesn't. And the Mets got to prove that they can win. I mean, again, only 1 World Series since 1986. The Braves have the same amount of World Series, and the Mets have a lot less postseason experience. So they're used to it. And then when you look at how they fell apart in 2007 and 2008 back-to-back years, the Mets are totally susceptible to blowing this, and they're allowing everybody in the National Leagues to kind of stay in contention with the inconsistency that they've shown over the last month.
I was going to say, I think a lot of people going into this year did not believe this division would be, they thought it would be tough and competitive, but I think they thought the Braves would be up top by at least 5 to 7 games for the majority of the year, and now we're in a situation where, because the Mets haven't been able to pull away, teams like the Braves could still be buyers late in the year. Go get a guy like Joc Pederson.
Yep.
The Braves will start a 3-game series against the Padres, and after that they'll play the Phillies, and then after that they'll play the Mets. So they'll have a good chance there against
5-game series at Citi Field. Yep.
Exactly. So I think it'll be a real testing point here between these two teams to find out where they all stand as we now get into the early part of the second half of the baseball season. And this is a different year compared to last year, because last year we had a shortened year. So this year is a little bit more reminiscent of what we normally see. We'll see how the Braves turn it around, if they can turn it around over these next few weeks. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, speaking of turning it around, that's what the Phoenix Suns have to do in order to keep their season alive. We'll talk NBA Finals as we get set for Game 6. Coming up next here on Overtime.